Hi and welcome back to my channel. I am Koala and this is my little nook in this end of the universe that we call YouTube. I am a shamanic practitioner mainly within Nordic shamanism, and I am here today to start my series about Nordic archetypes. So today we are going to go a little bit deeper into who Sleipnir is. So in this video I will talk a little bit about some source information. I have not only racked my brain and my own experiences, but I've also dug around in some literary sources of different kinds and not the fiction kinds. So I will talk a little bit about that, and I will cite sources if there are any. I will cite them in the description box, name them there, and then I will talk about what role Sleipnir has in modern or in my shamanic practice. So like among Nordic practitioners today, and that will, you know, segue into my own relationship with Sleipnir. And then I will talk a little bit about if we celebrate, honor this archetype in any way or form, and then I am finished. So I don't think it's gonna be a long video, but you never know. So my sources that I have looked into are in Swedish, of course, that's my language, and the sources are written in Swedish or translated into Swedish. So I have one in front of me called it's the first book that I have cited in the description box, by Gro Steinsland. So this is, I think, written in Danish from the beginning. So the reason I am bringing this up is because I'm going to read a little bit from it, but I'm gonna translate while I do it, so bear with me. Okay, so this is so this book is Norwegian, not Danish. I'm so sorry. This is Norwegian, and the original title I will also put in the description box for anyone interested, and who translated it into Swedish, etc. So in this book it says like this about the birth of Sleipnir, and this is from. So this is a book that cites other sources, and this one cites Snorre Sturlason's the building master myth, and it says, when the gods had built Asgård and Valhall, a giant came to them and offered to build a wall around Asgård. It would be unimpenetrable. I'll put the right word here somewhere. To the giants, so the giants wouldn't be able to get through. This work would take 6 months, on the condition that the gods gave him the sun, the moon, and Freya as a reward for his efforts. The gods made a deal because they didn't think that a giant would be able to finish this building in such a short span of time. But it turned out that this giant had the help of an enormous and strong horse, whose name is Svadilfare. I will put the name here, Svadilfare. And the gods realized after a while that this giant would be able to make the task. So they needed help, and Loki came to their help in the shape of a female horse what, I would put that word up here as well, because I don't know that from the top of my head. Loki lured Svadilfari away from the building site and led the horse into the woods. And the buildmaster, like the giant that had taken on the work, had to realize that he would lose the contract because his horse was lost. It ended with Thor coming and crushing his head. Loki, however, had to pay quite a big price for his involvement in this, because he had, in the shape of a horse, a female horse, he had, he had some fun with the stallion, Svadilfari, and 9 months later he gave birth to a foal that was grey and had 8 legs and got the name Sleipnir. So this story didn't just give Loki the credit and honor of having helped the gods, but it also gave him another son. And I will talk more about Loki and his 3 other children in another video when I talk about Loki. So this is the origin story of Sleipnir. And I always keep in mind when reading like scientific sources that first of all, every scientist has some kind of agenda with their writing, right? They have like a question they want answered, or they have a purpose with what they're doing, which means that they too gather a lot of information to answer this question, and they have to fit it all in, and they remove stuff that doesn't really help them or help them answer their question. And I have been a part of the the academic world before I wasn't. So I have gone to university, I have done some research and that sort of thing, and some essays and whatnot on that level, and I know what it takes to ask a question and answer it, and how you do your research and all that sort of things. So I always keep that in mind, and I also keep in mind that the purpose I have of using this information isn't the same as the authors had when writing the books or writing their theses or something like that. So in this book there's also a part about Sleipnir, and there's 2 things that the author brings up here that I would like to share. And one is that it talks about why Sleipnir has 8 legs, and that it means that Sleipnir has 8 legs because 8 is faster than 4 legs, and it's simply a symbol of that, of the speed that this horse can take. And that Sleipnir can run on roads that are closed to other beings. So Sleipnir is also called the horse of Hel because it knows the way to the realm of death, or Helheim, Hel's realm. So the queendom of Hel. And then once again it's mentioned about Loki and the other myth. And then there's something interesting here that during Viking Age and earlier, the horse was a pet that had a really high status in our countries, and it was also the number 1 sacrifice in rituals because of the high status. It was really a big sacrifice to sacrifice a horse to the gods, or in whatever ritual you were performing. And that is one of the reasons why it was forbidden to eat horse meat when Christianity took over. And that was kind of interesting. I had, I had come across that before, but I haven't really dug into these kind of sources in some years now. So it was interesting to read about that again. So yeah. And then I have another source that is a book with everything Nordic from A to Ö, because in Sweden we have 3 more letters than the English alphabet, which is O, A, Ö. So this is from, instead of A to Z, it's A to Ö. So when I look up Sleipnir in this book, it also meant, this is what it says: Sleipnir is Odin's 8-legged grey horse, according to Snorre again, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about Snorre in a second. And this source says that the story about the birth of Sleipnir from Loki is probably made up by Snorre. And Snorre Sturlason's written sources are the main ones that people often cite when they talk about Norse mythology and Nordic tradition and that sort of thing. So I don't really like when someone says made up, because everything is made up once upon a time, you know. Everything is you know, it's everything is made up in one way or another, but then there's always like a seed of truth in it as well, and we will never know the origin of everything, of every story. We will never know where it actually came from. And as a person that really, you know, relies a lot on my own experiences with working with the runes and with my shamanic tools and I rely a lot on my own experiences to create what I believe and what I live by. I don't really put a lot of emphasis on the that someone made something up, and I feel like when something is mentioned often enough, then there's something there, even though it might not be tangible and something that you know, can be pricked and prodded, because these people are also dead, so we don't know where it came from first. So that's kind of why I rely more on my own experiences as well when working with the runes and working with Seder and working with my own runic magic and that sort of thing. I do have like books and sources that I have relied on in the past and that has shaped my belief system, I would say. But you know, I don't have like a book that I would call my Bible, because I rely more on my own experiences, and I think that is also the difference between a religion and spirituality. And I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual shamanic practitioner, and you know, there weren't many people writing things down back then, so we will never know if what Snorri said was his own imaginings, or if it was that he was just writing down what everyone else also thought and had experiences of, and I mean spiritual experiences now. So I just wanted to mention that, my view on that. So this source says that according to Snorri, that probably made up the story, and that in that story Loki is Sleipnir's mother as someone who birthed Sleipnir then. This horse was bred when Loki turned himself into a mare. A mare? Is that the word? Maybe not. That is mounted by the stallion Svadilfare. Sleipnir can move as smooth on the ground as in the air. According to Snorri, this horse is the best horse of all the horses the gods have. And the background to the 8 legs are disputed. So here we go again. It could symbolize the speed of the horse, as I said before, because 8 legs is more than 4. And on one stone in Gotland, Gotland is an island that is a part of Sweden. There's a picture of Odin and his 8-legged horse, and it is very unclear what the 8 legs are referring to. And this is I think one of the earliest sources with Sleipnir on a stone. And you know, what is disputed, what is still being discussed, is, does Sleipnir have 8 legs, or is the number of legs not as important as what it symbolizes, and that symbolizes speed, and that he can move on every planes of existence that others can't? So that this is more important than the number of legs. And then it just says that Sleipnir is mentioned in a lot of the poems of Edda, and that makes me bring out my source that I own. I own this little book, and it's called Shamanens Edda by Jörgen Eriksson. And Edda is a word for like grandmother, which seems to imply that this was stories, you know, brought down through wise women, that, you know, old women, wise women, grandmothers, that it was stories that was brought down generation to generation, and this is in poem form. And this in this book, this isn't the entire Edda. This isn't Snorri's Edda. It's not the entire Edda. This is just a collection of stories from the Edda, and with comments by the author. And this is an author that I really like and enjoy, and this is someone I really look up to when it comes to Nordic shamanism in Sweden, and it's also mentioned in the description box. And here it says, and let me just translate this, because I couldn't find the source because the Edda is mentioned in other books as well that I have in front of me, but I couldn't find this paragraph in Old Norse or in Icelandic. So I will have to translate the Swedish translation that is in this book, just so you know. And it says like this: a wolf Loki birthed with Angerboda, and Sleipnir he got with Svadilfare. A monster, the worst of all, Billy's brother bore. Something like that. Loki ate the heart. On the fires of the Lind he found half-burnt the stone of the woman, and Loki became pregnant by the hateful woman, and the beast was born. I'm so bad at this. You know, this is a really difficult text to translate, but I've tried to make it so that, you know, the sentiment of it comes through. But this is where it is mentioned, one of the sources that mentions the birth of Sleipnir by Loki. So I will also talk about Loki in another video. I have come across so much interesting information that I want to share. I already like Loki, and I knew a lot of things, but it's nice to read some of it again and be reminded of his shenanigans. And I will talk about him in another video, because I could start now, but I'm not gonna. Okay, so The last source I have is by an author that is probably one of the most known of these, and she's called Britt-Mari Näsström, and this I will cite the book in the description box, and in this paragraph, in this chapter, it talks about the entourage of Odin, you could say, about his wolves and his it mentions both the wolves and the ravens, and then also Sleipnir, and it says like this: Odin's horse was also the more remarkable type, and his name was Sleipnir. But Sleipnir is actually most often referred to as it, like genderless, or gender, like a gender, no gender. So I want to keep it that way, I think. So it says its name was Sleipnir. It had 8 legs that you can see pictured again on the stone in Gotland, and on this horse Odin could ride over land and sea, something that is also told in other stories that is mentioned here. With Sleipnir he could also go down to the underworld and ask the dead for advice. Hermod, which is supposed to be one of Odin's sons, once borrowed the horse to go into the realm of death itself to ask Hel to return Balder when Balder had died. And Sleipnir has sometimes been referred to as a death horse and a symbol of the wind, but the only thing that can really be told about him is that he belonged to Odin and was born by Loki. So there is a bigger tale about Hermod, but the basics are those that Hermod's borrowed Sleipnir to go into the underworld and get Balder back. And I might talk about that when I talk about Balder later in the spring, when I talk about gods on this channel. So going through some sources, something I didn't find. I'm sorry this is kind of messy. I'm sure I will get better at this with each archetype I talk about. So one thing that I didn't find in any of these sources were the fact that Heimdall is a god that borrows Sleipnir to ride on the rainbow to the underworlds. I found a lot of information about Heimdall that I already knew, and that it corresponds with my own experience of that god and my own my own practice, but that is one thing that I didn't really find. But it also kind of makes sense to me why not everything is written down, and as I said, people that write these books and these scientific books, they have a purpose, and they want a lot of sources to corroborate stories, and they most often just pick the ones that have been corroborated a lot. So if there aren't any written things, maybe some things has only been talked about, and it has been talked about from generation to generation and shared in a verbal storytelling way, then that might not always be written down. And I know that a lot of people says that the practice that we have today is a new modern version, and that we don't know what was going on back in these days with what I've read, and how people actually practiced this the Nordic shamanic religion that they talk about, and that there's like a long gap in time between when we have sources from and today, and that during that gap we have no idea really what happened, and I don't think that the gap infers that there wasn't any practice. I just think it wasn't written down in many ways, and I think that people did rely heavily on some of the sources that were older during that time as well, if they had access to them. And yeah, it's really interesting to dig deeper into this. I really recommend it for anyone who's interested in ancient Nordic religions or practice. And one of these books also mentions the similarities and the differences and the impact that Sápmi shamanic practice has had on ancient Nordic practice, because those are different. They have similarities, but they are different. So I'm not Sápmi. I don't consider myself I practice that. We have some things in common, and it's interesting to read about that as well, reading sources. That's something I enjoy, but it's also, noteworthy. So with that said, I'm gonna go into my next topic in this video, and that is what role does Sleipnir have in the more modern practice, or in the practice that I know and that other people that practice the same way I practice. What's the role of Sleipnir? So, and I would say that the role of Sleipnir is to be Sleipnir is the shamanic practitioner's horse that takes us between worlds. This horse is it could be a vessel we can turn into the horse and journey, and I think that happens when the more we work with this kind of practice, the more we journey in the different worlds. And the worlds I'm talking about are, of course, the 9 worlds. And I'm gonna link the playlist to the 9 worlds that I've talked about here. So in my practice and in the practice of, my people, other practitioners that I know, Sleipnir is a symbol of a journey between the worlds, and he is the horse that we ride when we do that. And sometimes we can be Sleipnir, sometimes we can ride Sleipnir, sometimes Sleipnir is just a symbol that corresponds with whatever tool we are working with. So the most common tool is the drum with shamanic journeying, as it is for a variety of different practices, shamanic practices all around the world. And the horse is also well known, as the animal that takes us between the worlds. It's not only the Nordic practice that has this, and I think that's very interesting, and something that we should remember. And that's what I mean when some things aren't always written down, but we have like a universal understanding, and we have a universal practice or experience of something, and it just is. That's just the way it is, And then when people are interviewed and talked to about these things, then we can see that something is universal or global. And the horse, as the animal that we ride between the worlds, are global in a lot of ways. So we have the 8-legged horse that is Sleipnir, and as I said, does he have 8 legs, or is it just a symbol for his abilities to travel between the worlds and travel between different planes that others can't, and take us along with him? And I don't know why I say him. I've always said him, but it doesn't really matter. I think, I think Sleipnir is genderless. Sleipnir has a mother and a father, but Sleipnir doesn't have or he has two fathers or whatever. I'm gonna talk about Loki and the gender non-conformative ways of Loki in another video, because Loki is very interesting in that aspect. So the short of the long, or the long of the short, is that Sleipnir is who we travel with and on between the worlds. And Sleipnir is Odin's horse. That is something that is a fact in my practice. And another fact is that Heimdall is the only other god that borrows Sleipnir to travel and to journey. And he does this to help us go via the upper worlds to the underworlds and then back again. And we do that on the rainbow, but we need Heimdall's help. So of course we can become all of this, you know, all of these gods and archetypes are archetypes that we can embody and we can work with, and that we can really make them a part of us. And where we have gotten so far as to have Sleipnir become a part of us, or Odin become a part of us. We are Odin, Odin is us. We are Heimdall, Heimdall is us. We are Loki, Loki is us. We are Sleipnir, Sleipnir is us. That is when we can journey on our own, using a drum or a rattle or whatever tool we have. The drum is the most common one. But then when we get really well practiced, I don't want to say like when we master it or something like that, but maybe we have to. That is when we can travel between the worlds without a tool, and that is, I think, when we become Sleipnir. And you can just kind of close your eyes, go into a trance-like state or a meditative state, and then just move yourself between the worlds. That is when you have become one with Sleipnir. So now I'm going to talk about my relationship with Sleipnir, but I'm not going to talk about it much, because that's basically it. That's kind of it. My relationship with Sleipnir is that it is the horse that I travel with. I see Sleipnir as I see Sleipnir as the horse that I'm traveling with, and when I journey, I use my drum often. Sometimes I use a rattle, and sometimes I don't use anything at all. And I see myself as, becoming one with Sleipnir when I journey. So no matter how I journey, I see myself as becoming one. In rare occasions, I see myself on top of the horse. Most often when I guide someone else and I describe to them during the journey what we're doing and what's happening and what we're gonna do next, then, and if that person is also gonna journey with me, of course, when someone's gonna journey with me, I often say that we jump on the horse, especially if we are going to do some soul retrieval, and we go to the underworlds via the upper worlds with Heimdall. Then so I kind of talk about it in more visually graspable, tangible, I would say, when I describe it, and when I journey with other people. When I do it myself, I just go from one, I just stop myself there. It's a lot quicker to do it on my own, and I don't really think about every step. Is kind of hard to describe, because if I were to start describing it, then I would overthink it, and I don't overthink when I journey or when I perform Seder on my own. So my relationship with Sleipnir is that we become one when I work with Sleipnir. I don't see it as a horse that I feed and take care of and that sort of thing. And that brings me to the next topic of honoring or celebrating Sleipnir. And I've also written down summon or call upon. And we call upon Sleipnir when we start working with the tool that we are going to journey with. We can do that practically we can, you know, we can do that verbally, and we can call on him, and we can invite him into the circle. And I sometimes do when I'm going to journey, or when I hold a ceremony for journeying, that I call upon Sleipnir to assist if I'm gonna use my drum or something like that. So we can absolutely do that. And if you want to get to know Sleipnir a lot better, then I suggest that you do summon him or call upon him and ask him to be a part of your journey, and to invite him into your sacred space when you want to do a shamanic journey. And start off easy. Start in the middle world, start with just doing a meditation, and then walking from Mannheim in the middle of the middle world to Svartalfheim or Ljusalfheim, so the home of the Black Elves and the home of the light elves. Is that what they call it? Yeah. And just kind of get to know him. But you can also do it more, you know, just like drumming and getting a feel for him. Like call upon Sleipnir when you're gonna start to drum, and ask Sleipnir to take you on a journey just around and then back again, and just trust, and then let the drum be the horse. I hope you understand what I mean. So yeah, and of course we can honor and celebrate him as well, the Sleipnir. I said him again. So we can honor and celebrate Sleipnir, and maybe we should honor and celebrate this horse more, because something that really struck me when I was looking for sources to cite, and I was kind of trying to find sources that mention this horse that I work with so often. What struck me was that Sleipnir is only mentioned as a part of someone else's story, and I think that this horse deserves his own story, or their own story, don't you? This is such a big part of the shamanic practice that is today, that I think Sleipnir really deserves their own story and their own place, because this horse has its own place in our practice. Regardless of Odin, regardless of Heimdall, regardless of Hermod, regardless of Loki, the horse is important, and we should honor this being in and of itself, and as itself. We don't need to, you know, only talk about this horse in regards to, oh, it's Odin's horse, oh, it's Loki's son, oh, it's you know, this and this, and that's something that really struck me. And I'm not really a fan of when like side characters don't have their own story, you know, and yeah, I want Sleipnir to be the main character in their own story. That's kind of what I hope to convey with this video. I really hope to convey that there are merits to this grey horse. So that's kind of what I had to say, and I had more to say than I thought initially. So, but this is also my first video about a Nordic archetype in this series, so I'm not really, you know, used to yet having all of these sources around me and citing those and summing them up. I think these videos will become shorter for every week that I dive deeper into these archetypes. So if you have an archetype in the Nordic tradition or shamanic practice that you would like me to dive deeper into, talk about, both, you know, from my own experience and what sources I have available, and if you want me to do a little bit more of a deep dive and sum that up for you, then let me know in the comments. And I want to end this video by thanking my patrons that support me so that I can keep doing what I love to do, which is talk about this stuff, teach this stuff, and talk and teach about runes and the Nordic shamanic practice and everything that comes with it. So you have the option to become a free member and have one extra bonus video a month, or become a curious member that is my lowest paying tier and have another bonus video available every month. So, and then I have some other tiers as well, if you want to take a course, if you want to walk with the goddesses and that sort of thing. So check that out, and I will see you in whatever comes next. And yeah, walk in beauty, walk with Sleipnir, and see how many legs that horse actually got. See you next time. Tjingeling.